Yo, yo. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Freedom marchers, freedom lovers, freedom family, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorilla here. Welcome to Freedom's March, where we're going to get into the morning paper. We got the morning paper going on, y'all. And we got something to talk about. Every day there's something to talk about. Every day I find more and more reasons, or I gather more and more reasons for us to continue to march toward freedom, people. So if you're about that freedom life, if you're about achieving freedom, then go on ahead, hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? When you enter the room, especially if you're watching the replay right now, because no one is watching right now. So, you know, if you're on that replay, go ahead and hit that like button, man. If you like freedom, go ahead and hit that. If you understand that freedom is not free, and if you understand that freedom is uncomfortable, right? If you understand that freedom is dangerous, if you understand that anarchy and freedom and voluntarism is not a utopia, go ahead and hit that like button. I'm not pushing for utopia. I'm not pushing for bliss. I'm not pushing for comfortability. I'm pushing for freedom. Unadulterated, true freedom. Because freedom builds awareness, y'all. Freedom builds awareness. It builds the awareness that no one is going to save you but yourself. So we always start with the individual, right? Because the individual is the most important minority. It's the most important minority, the individual. Then you build up to family. Family is important as well, right? So it's an understanding that you're responsible for the safety and well-being of yourself and your family. And when you join with a community, you understand the same thing. You and your community are responsible for its safety and well-being equally, right? We're not placing anybody above anybody else. And if you want a leader, you choose a leader. Leaders are chosen. They're not foisted upon you. They're not voted for, right? Everybody chooses the same leader, or no one chooses the same leader. And it's understood in leadership that you build leadership in others, that you don't seek power. You're not seeking power as a leader. You're looking to guide. You're looking to guide those around you. That's what you're doing as a leader. Understand that. So those individuals out there, the elite class, that come to you like they're your leaders, they're not really your leaders. They're your dictators. They're your tyrants, right? They don't want you to be a leader. They want you to be a follower. Well, that's not what leaders want. And Donald Trump and these Democrats, well, they're all the same. They're not leaders. They're dictators. They are dog and pony show kabuki theater actors. That's what they are. And they're wasting your time and your taxpayer money pushing this whole thing about redistricting so that the midterms can go their way. This is what these people are doing. When are the midterms? The midterms are what, 2026? Next year? Well, we got work to do right now, right? And so you redistrict so that Texas can vote blue. And what is that going to do for the people of Texas? And Trump wants to redistrict. He wants to redline, basically. He wants Greg Abbott, or whatever the hell his name is, Governor Abbott, to push redlining so that he can ensure that the Republicans have more power. But what is this doing for the people? What is this doing for the people that call themselves Republicans? It's a waste of time, right? Oh, look, my favorite ruler is going to give me more power. He's going to make my vote count more. That's what the idea is, right? You draw new lines, you create new districts, or you expand districts and shrink others so that one group of people or that can have more power over another, but they don't really have more power. What they have, you know, what the illusion is that, well, I give up my power by voting for someone else to dictate my life. How is that powerful? How are you in power when you're voting for somebody else to look out for you, to make decisions for you on a scale that you don't understand, right? Because you don't understand the scale, you don't understand what they deal with, right? You don't want to have to deal with, you know, how schools are ran. You don't want to have to deal with how this money is spent or that money is spent. You don't want to have to deal with hiring freezes and, you know, you don't want to have to deal with, well, how are we going to build, how are we going to support the infrastructure of this railway? Or how are we going to do this? You don't want to have to think about that. So you pass it off to somebody else because you believe they're going to do what's best for you, right? That's the idea behind voting for somebody. That's the idea behind a representative democracy. The idea is, that's the idea behind a republic. You are voting for a representative to look out for your best interest. Well, I can tell you this. No one is going to look out for your best interest more than yourself. Rainbow Leon official channel. Salute to you. Good morning. No one is going to look out for your best interest more than yourself. Not a Democratic, not a Democrat politician, not a Republican politician, not an independent politician, not a Green Party politician. None of these people are going to be able to represent you like you can represent yourself. No one is going to be able to represent your community like your community can represent itself, if that's understood. So we have this fake showdown between Donald Trump, Governor Abbott of Texas, and these Democrats that are flying around the country trying to avoid a vote for a bill that would allow for redistricting. The purpose behind the redistricting is to ensure that the Republicans in Texas, you know, they keep their seats, right? During the midterms. During the midterm elections, that's what this does. It's basically moving around imaginary lines to give one district more power, more voting power over another. That's the idea. I thought this was illegal. I thought this wasn't allowed. I thought you couldn't do that because, you know, unless there were some drastic changes in these districts, right? Unless there was drastic changes, and that's what the census is for, right? You find out how many people live in that district, right? And then you base the number of people in those districts on what their needs are, and then you draw new lines that way. But the idea now, what Trump is not trying to do in Texas, is just arbitrarily redraw lines so that he can ensure that he wins Texas, right? This is what your president is doing. This is what your governor is doing. These are what your Democratic representatives are doing. They're going around playing cat and mouse. so that they can redraw lines. This is what your taxpayer money is going to. This is what your extortion money is going to. They extort you. They extort you and they use your money to waste time. This is what government does, y'all. They pretend like they're at odds with each other. Right? Well, sometimes they may not have to pretend. You might have a representative that's not in on the game. They're not in, they're not hip. But they don't have to be, because a few untuned in and unclued in people are not going to upset the apple cart. They're not going to change anything. Yes, Twilight, that's the idea, right? It's not just about the poor. Yeah, it's the idea behind redlining is to make sure a certain group of people are more represented than another. That's the idea. That's why I thought it was illegal. I know they do it in California, right? In California, when I lived there, we had these council people that were trying to do the same thing. They did do the same thing so that they could build the Metro link down Crenshaw Boulevard. On the surface, yes, you have better public transportation going up and down Crenshaw. But what happened is they had to buy up businesses, black-owned businesses. There were black-owned businesses up and down Crenshaw Boulevard that did not want to give up their business. They were in a prime location for whatever business they had, whether it be a barbershop, a clothing shop. There were a lot of black-owned businesses on Crenshaw Boulevard, particularly between Martin Luther King, right? Crenshaw Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard, all the way down to Adams, all the way to Century Boulevard. They had a lot of black-owned businesses, not just black-owned, small, but a number of small businesses, mom and pop shops. Well, they had to shut down these businesses to build these Metro links, the Metro link, and they wanted to put up new business, gentrification. Well, folks that lived in the Crenshaw district wasn't going for it. So what did they do? Well, they redlined. They made part of the district, the Crenshaw district, they moved that into, Beverly Hills or whatever silly shit. They broke it up, right? So they can get this goddamn Metro link put in. Now, this was going to happen regardless, the Metro link. But they wanted to give you guys the impression that, oh, well, we're splitting votes and your vote matters. This is the impression they're trying to give. Rob S. says N-word. He's probably referring to himself, and N probably stands for nitwit. That's probably what it stands for. Yeah, he's talking about himself, and he's talking about who cares. Well, you care. That's why you're writing in my chat. You're writing in my chat because you care. Old Glory, salute to you. Yes. Not only does the 68 people in there watching, or now 89, care, but so does Rob S. So he's part of that. He cares. That's why he's writing in here. But it's okay. They come through and they troll. Y'all don't want to hear it. Not a lot of you. Not a lot of you. Y'all don't want to hear that they're wasting your money. Y'all don't want to hear that y'all wasting your energy being concerned with this redlining. Why are you wasting your time thinking about redlining? Because, like I said, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. Because here's the problem, right? Your vote matters. Let's say your vote matters. Your vote matters only so much that you are voting to give your power over to another individual. You're giving your power over to another individual. Now, you maintain a level of power. You have the power and you have the freedom to do certain things throughout the day that no one can tell you what to do. But then there is a level of power that most people don't think about because they want to think about other things. Well, this is what these elite class members understand. But no one controls what they do at all whatsoever at any level, right? Except for the elite class members above them. But they enjoy a lot more freedoms than we do. They don't have to deal with the things that we have to deal with, right? But in order for them to maintain this, they have to control us where it matters, right? And so they provide things, or they appear to provide things for us to make us feel comfortable and safe. Bridges, roads, hospitals, police departments, you know what I'm saying? Ambulances and all these different things, right? Roads. They'll come fill a pothole for $3 million, right? When they feel like it. So yes, they give you the impression that they are providing things for you to keep you safe and to keep you whole and to keep you comfortable. But everything they provide comes from you. They're just the middleman, right? They're just the middleman. Imagine, it's like if you're in construction. I'm in construction, right? I work in construction. And you have general contractors that bid for work from these owners, right? And, you know, the idea behind the general contractor is to facilitate construction amongst all the subcontractors, whether it be the steel workers, the concrete guys, the electricians, the plumbers, the carpenters. They facilitate and they coordinate amongst these people to get shit built, right? But that's all they do. They don't do anything else, right? They run around. You know, they get permits. You know, they get permits, and even the engineers, right? The general contractor aren't the engineers. The engineers are separate. So you might have an engineer for the entire job, or you can have every subcontractor has their own engineer. It's called as-built contract or a plan spec contract. The bottom line is this is what I'm getting to. Being the representative of my trade on the job, I have to deal with these general contractors. And they're worthless. They're worthless. Completely worthless. I have to coordinate with the other trades myself. I have to make sure that when we're digging this ditch to put this underground conduit in, that we're not right on top of the plumbers while they're doing the same thing. I had to coordinate that. But what is the general contractor doing? They're not doing the damn thing. So it's like with the government. The government is the general contractor. They give you the impression that they're facilitating something, but they're really not. The money is coming from the owner. The owner or the developer that wants this thing built. That is where the money comes from. Whereas me, right, and my crew, you know, we put in the work. We do the installations, right? The general contractor does not. They don't do jack shit. All they do is whine and complain and talk about schedules. Oh, we got to meet this deadline, and they come to you. Oh, we got to do this a week early. They try to move the schedule up so they can get goddamn bonuses, so they can get done faster. This is what they do. They crawl up your ass. So now you're rushing to try to get the work done, and the work, you might miss something, or whatever you wanted to put underground, you might have to do it overhead now because they are trying to get this done a week earlier. All that silly type of shit. It's the same thing with the government. When the government spends your money to provide you things, you think that they're providing those things for you. You understand? But they're using your money to do it. Even when they're not doing shit for you, when they do shit for themselves, like they fly around and they travel and they stay in these fancy hotels on your dime, Getting what done? Not a motherfucking thing. They're not doing shit. They take 6-month vacations a year. They go to work, especially federal senators and the senators and the Congress people that meet in DC, right? That represent the entire state. They don't do jack shit. They meet up a few times a year to talk and to filibuster and to argue and all this other silly shit to try to make it seem like they're fighting for you against the enemy on the other side of the aisle. But when it comes to their raises, when they want to get a raise, oh, they all agree. They don't disagree. They want to take more of your money. Take more of your money to sit on their ass 8 months out the year. This is what government does. So these bridges and these roads and these hospitals, these things that you feel are necessities that you need, you think the government provides it, but they don't. You provide it. Just like that, just like the government can hire a private contractor, which is what they do, to build these roads and bridges. Well, you can do the same thing with the people within your community, within your state, within the country. All you gotta do is come together and say, you know what? Let's hire some. You don't need the government. See, the government is supposed to represent the needs of the people. It's not supposed to control the people. It's supposed to do what's best for the people. It's supposed to look out for the people. It's supposed to, that's what the government is supposed to do. That's what I thought anyway. I thought that the government, back when I was in the military and before, at a very young age, I was disillusioned by age 22. No, 24, 25. By age 25, I was disillusioned about government. I really understood what government meant and what it did. But now you have, in these things, these distraction tactics, the whole, look at the showdown between Donald Trump and Texas and the Texas Democrats. Ain't no motherfucking showdown. How's it a showdown when these Democrats are doing what? They're flying away. They're running, right? They're running away. They're trying to hide so they don't have to come get this vote. Now they're getting fined, right? They might get fined so much per day, and then they get apprehended and placed under arrest. For what reason? If it was really a showdown, they stay their ass right there, and they would argue against redistricting. And if they can't convince the other enough members of Congress to come to their side, it is what it is. This is what they signed up for, right? This is what their duties are supposed to be. No, they could have saved taxpayer money by not flying off like a bunch of bitches. What they doing? Now they flying off like a bunch of bitches. Oh, we're trying to do this for y'all. But you're just wasting time. It's just a delaying tactic. This happened before in 2003 in Texas, I believe, where they did the same shit. They wanted to redistrict, they wanted to redline, and they flew to Oklahoma and sat there, and they delayed the vote twice. But at the end of the day, they had to come back, and it happened anyway. In the meantime, let's waste the taxpayer money by flying off and fucking off. And not coming to the table, not confronting these people, not putting it out there. See, because what they're showing you is that this is what they're showing the people they represent, these Democrats. What they're showing them is that when things don't go your way and you're facing adversity, instead of coming to the table, instead of standing in the pocket and doing your best to fight for what's right, no, we're going to fly off. We're going to avoid. We're not going to fight. We're not going to rebel. We're not going to stand up. You know what I'm saying? We're going to sit there and we're going to pretend like we're doing something for you that we're not doing. Right? That's what we're going to do. That's why they're flying off. They're showing you, look, this is what we're doing. We're going to play these games. We're going to go run and hide. And then we're going to waste the taxpayer money. You know what I'm saying? Because they could have saved Texas money, right? They just had to stay there. Stormy B Man, salute to you, my brother. Salute the Stormy B Man in the building. Yo, that was a great live last night, man. Y'all got me to thinking about my childhood. And I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little different than today. But anyway, no, these Democrats. Drop your link in the chat, Stormy B Man. I don't know, you might have some boxing fans in here. If you guys enjoy boxing and you want to hear some real boxing talk, real analytical boxing talk, where they talk about all the fights and break it down like no other, check out Stormy B Man, y'all. Anyway, so yeah, what these Democrats did, what they demonstrated for their party members, for their constituents, is that we're not going to go and we're not going to fight to prevent this redistricting. We're going to run away. And when they get fined, who pays for these fines? You're fining yourself. You know that, right? Because they get their salary from the people. They get their salary from the people. So when they get fined, well, all they're doing is taking the money you gave them and giving it back to the government. Yeah, they're wasting your time and your money. If they get apprehended when they come back, guess what happens? Well, that takes money too. Every time the government does something, it costs money. Every time they write down on a piece of paper, it costs you money. Every time they print, the ink in the printer, the paper that gets sent to all their offices, all the paperwork they do, all the reports, that costs you money. Now, it costs money, or it costs time and labor. The money represents time and labor and energies and goods and services, right? Well, the services is the time and labor and energy. So money represents time and labor and energies and goods, right? That's what it does. So it takes time, it takes labor, and it takes energy to survive in life and to have everything that you want and need, right? But the government extracts much of that from you in order to operate. And by the time it gets to the end, right? Say like that contractor that needs to build that road, the contractor that needs to build that hospital, those doctors and nurses, the Medicare and the Medicaid that people are talking about that's getting taken away from them. Y'all do understand that by the time it gets to those services, way more money is spent than needs to be for those services. It's overinflated. It has to pass through all these hands. Every time it passes through an entity to get to where it needs to get, you're wasting more money. You're wasting more money because everybody has to get their cut. Everybody involved has to get their cut. Well, if you cut out the middleman, if you cut out the middle entity, it's not going to cost you as much. And also, what do you get? Well, instead of monopolies, right? Instead of monopolies like with police departments are monopolies. Utility companies are monopolies. Instead of having monopolies, you have competition. And what happens with competition? Well, you get superior service. You get those companies, those private contractors, those individuals providing the services. Well, they have to work harder to keep your money, to get your money. So they're going to provide the best service possible because they want to compete with the other entity. Yes, with these government contracts, there are some competition, but you have nothing to do with who gets chosen. Nothing to do with it all whatsoever. So when the government you know, when they had these bids going on. Yes, Stormy B, man, like the mob. The government is the mob. It's pretty plain and simple. The United States government is essentially the mob, y'all. Just so you know. it commits RICO violations against you every day. Every day. Marcy T's in the building. Salute to you, Queen. Salute to Marcy T. Make sure you drop your link too. My indigenous sister, Marcy T. Salute to my indigenous sister. So that somebody said no, bro. William the Wolfman. What are you saying? Oh, ho. You saying ho? Okay, sure. Anyway, so this is a waste of time, you guys. This is a waste of time. Oh, hi. How you doing, brother? Love you too, Marcy T. This is a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayer money. It's a waste of taxpayer energy. And they're not representing these Democrats. These Democrat Congress people that ran away, they're not representing you very well right now. Hell, Donald Trump, technically, who is not a representative, he's an executive. There's a difference, right? Donald Trump is an executive. But Greg Abbott, or whatever his name is it Greg Abbott? It don't sound right. Anyway, he's not a representative, he's an executive. But the Republicans, they're not representing you well either. You know why? Because they want to draw new lines to take power away from one group and shift it to another so their favorite ruler can win or have more power at the midterms, so that Donald Trump can ensure that whatever bill he wants to pass is passed much easier if he has a Republican majority. That is the purpose behind this redlining. The purpose behind redlining, because they say they want to represent you. They say they want to represent the people, but they're taking away representation. They're taking away the so-called voting power that you're getting. So now you can't be represented because you have been outvoted. You're much more easily outvoted because they think they know the people in these districts. Well, if we shift these people over to this district, we know they're going to vote for Republican policies and Republicans in general. And we know that we know that because, well, human beings, we are creatures of habit. So they understand these things, right? You go to Dallas, you go to Houston, those people, they know, well, they're going to vote Democrat no matter what, right? They know this because they know the patterns. They have developed these patterns in you. They have cultivated these patterns within you so that it's much easier to control you. Don't we understand that? I'm going to use a boxing analogy that Story B-Man might be able to appreciate. It's like when you're boxing, when you're in a fight, you're in a ring with somebody and you're boxing, and your opponent slips a lot. They slip left and right. They slip left and right. And they do this for 2 or 3 rounds. And, those first 2 or 3 rounds, those are the fill-out rounds, right? You feint, you throw your jab, use your measuring stick. You try to find out, okay, I know my range. I know his patterns. I know how hard he's probably going to hit. Because at those times, you guys are both doing fill-out rounds. You're not necessarily trying to use all your power. You're just trying to see how your opponent reacts to what you're doing. Well, let's say after round 3, your opponent keeps slipping left and right in the same pattern. Well, now you know that when they're slipping, they're not changing it up. They're just slipping left and right, right? They're not fading back. They're not doing a double slip on one side, which you can do. They're not rolling. They're not making it difficult for you to pick up their patterns. So now you got the smooth setup. You're playing chess. You know that if you throw your right hand they're going to slip left or whatever, and then they're going to come back and slip right because they think you might have a follow-up straight. Well, no, now you're going to throw a hook as they slip to the left, or they slip in the other direction. You're going to throw that hook, you're going to catch them on the chin, knock their ass out. That's what we do. That's why they feel like they can predict how we're going to vote. That's why they're interested in redistricting. Because they think, well, if we redraw these lines and put it over here, we know that they're going to vote a certain way. They know y'all. They know y'all like they know voters like the back of their hand. They know that black people are mostly conservative, but the Democratic Party has convinced them that they should be liberals by whatever means. They know that about most black people. And so guess what? When they see a bunch of black folks in a district that has been ran by a Democratic representative for decades, they understand, oh, there's growth here. Let me tell y'all, let me explain y'all why this redistricting is important. Like Dallas and Houston and San Antonio, they know there's growth there. People are flocking to these cities. They're flocking to them. And so when Donald Trump became president the second time, they had in November of 2020, was it 20, whatever the fuck year it was, 2023 or whatever, 2024. They thought Texas was going to turn blue, right? Because they understood, well, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, bada boom, bada bing. They thought because of those states, because there's there's such a high population of people there that are mostly liberal, they thought, well, okay, it's going to be a tough one. But the Republican districts edged it out. They edged it out. Well, guess what? There was a lot of growth in Texas. There was a lot of growth in these cities. So they feel like, well, it's a lot of growth of Democrats. A lot more Democrats are moving to Texas to get away from the liberal states they lived in, like California, like Nevada or whatever. So they say, okay, well they're moving to Texas, and they're gonna fuck off our red state. They're gonna turn it into a purple state or a blue state, because they feel like, well, they're gonna move to Texas. These people moving to Texas are getting away from their blue state, because their blue state is being ran into the fucking ground. So they're gonna come over here with that liberal blue state mentality and fuck Texas off in the same direction. That is the belief. So because of all the growth, it may lean blue in the midterm. So their whole idea is, well, yes, I understand William Vance, it is illegal, but that's why they're trying to create legislation to get by that. They're trying to create legislation to get past the illegality. They're trying to make it legal, right, through legislation. So this is the thing. They redistrict, and that's why they're doing this, because they don't want Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, these big major cities in Texas. They don't want an overwhelming number of Democrats to turn the tide against the Republicans. And that's why they want to do this redlining, because you have districts just outside surrounding these cities that are Republican. So if you split up those districts, if you bring the lines out, you're going to absorb a lot of the Democratic votes into those conservative outskirts, and then the Republican vote is going to overwhelm those Democratic votes when those new lines are drawn. That's why they want to do it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, this is why understanding what your vote actually gets is important. Because if your vote matters. If your vote matters, it only really matters if your vote gets you what you want. And even when it gets you what you think you want, you still don't have any power because you're voting to give your power over to another human being, right? So let's say they get their redlining cracking, they get it done. What's really going to change, right? What's really going to change? Y'all see, this is what y'all believe. Let me tell you the games they play with y'all, man. All this free shit y'all think y'all was gonna get, it's not fucking free. Free health care, free food, free this, free school. None of that shit's free. Even if you don't pay a copay, even if you go get surgery and you're not paying out of pocket, you already paid out of pocket. But what they're doing is they're telling you, oh, well, Donald Trump wants to get rid of these free programs because he's an asshole. Right? That's what they want you to believe. Oh, he took away the Medicaid. He took away the Medicare and all this bullshit, right? Well, none of that shit. First of all, none of that shit was free in the first place. All that did was add it to the debt ceiling. All that did was add it to the debt. So when we talk about free health care in Canada, look at the UK, they got free health care. No, they don't. They have to take money from you for this health care. They got it. It's not fucking free. It's not free if they taking out of your pocket to make it happen. And then if you talk to Canadians that have to use their healthcare system, many of them that got bread, they will fly to the United States to get treatment. They will fly to the United States to get treatment because they don't want to wait 6 months to get treatment. They don't want to wait 6 months. They don't want to sit in line. Now, do you have in emergency rooms? You got big ass lines, right? If you now, I have been on government funded healthcare as a veteran. If you want to understand what free healthcare is like in America, get on welfare. Right? Get on welfare or become a veteran and just simply use VA healthcare. That's it. You only are able to use VA healthcare or you're on welfare and you got to go through the government. I want you guys, and then you got to do an experiment. I've done both. I haven't been on welfare, but I have had to use VA healthcare solely. But I also have had top-notch PPO, private healthcare, that I pay for out of my own pocket, voluntarily. So guess what? Guess what was better? Guess what was better when I had to go to the doctor? Guess what was better? That PPO is a million times better. And I paid for it out of my own pocket. Now, the VA healthcare was trash. You might get an appointment 2 or 3 months from now. You call, you might have an issue. You go to their emergency room, you might be sitting there for hours and hours and hours. Next thing you know, you're dead. Veterans are deleting themselves in parking lots because the treatment they're getting is lacking. Well, it's the same thing on welfare. You paying for, you getting what you pay for. Except it is being paid for. It's just not being paid for by you at the moment because you don't have a job and you're on welfare. But somebody's paying for it. So it's not free. When you go to that emergency room, I've seen it. I've gone to clinics where they take PPO and they take Medicare and the government funded shit. I've been there. I've been there as a PPO holder, and now these people will have appointments at 9 o'clock. My appointment will be at 9:30. I show up at 9 o'clock. I check in. Guess who goes sees the doctor first? Before 9:30. Me. I get priority because I'm paying out of pocket. I'm paying out of pocket for my health care. Now, is Big Pharma and Big Medical, now they're gouging, of course. They're gouging the shit out of everybody because they have a monopoly on health care, or sick care, I'll say. They have a monopoly on sick care when it comes to the government and when it comes to private. But you get much better treatment when you pay for private health care. Ask Canadians. Ask the people in the UK how long it takes them to get something done. And it's not free. They take 80,000% of your goddamn money to pay for it. Nothing the government gives you is free. Nothing the government does is free. This big showdown between Donald Trump and the Democrats and Greg Abbott and all these people, it's costing us money. They're wasting your time, acting like they really have opposing views, and they really, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. These goddamn people, they're making over $100,000 a year to pretend like they're representing you. What a fucking joke. They can't represent you like you can represent yourself. They can't represent your family like you can represent your family. If you're the leader of your family, if you are the leader of your family, if you're the leader of your small community, no one can represent you or your community like yourself. And every community member needs to represent themselves within that community. Every family member needs to be able to represent themselves within that family. And so what happens? You can't redistrict that. Nah, you can't. Hey, you don't need to redistrict. You don't need to redistrict. You break down government, you decentralize it, you give power back to the states, and you give power back to the people, and then you break it down further from there. You don't need representation in Washington, D.C. Because guess what? If you live in a community of 1,000 people and y'all minding your own business and y'all have the land, y'all have all these services, y'all have your community, everything is working out fine, and you have a leader that represents all 1,000 of you that live within the community and have to deal with you and see you every day, well, they have no choice but to represent you. Because those 1,000 people that live within that community, they're going to be of like mind and similar interest. Now, they're not going to agree on everything, but that's okay, because they can have that discourse. They can have those discussions, right? And everybody can do what's best for themselves at that point, as long as it doesn't affect the community as a whole. These things are possible. At that point, if y'all want to do all that silly voting stuff, Democrat this, Democratic, democratic system, the majority rules and all that, and within a small community, well, guess what? If you do that, well, you have to answer for the way they voted and vice versa. It's a lot easier with small knit communities to ensure that people are held responsible and accountable for bullshit they might do. So if you have a tyrant that might try to rise up and try to take control and they hunger for power, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, you'll be able to deal with those people much more readily. Well, how are you going to deal with the congressperson that ran off and didn't stand there and fight against these Republicans to prevent these redistricting bullshit rules. They don't have the answer to you. You ain't never gonna see them. You try to call them, they're gonna screen your calls. You show up, well, you got to go through security, and they may never let your ass in the building. This is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with big government, y'all. Even on the scale of a district where there's hundreds of thousands of people, and you have a representative that's supposed to represent those hundreds of thousands of people, they still don't have the answer to you. They do. They still gonna vote the way they want to vote, and there's nothing that you can do about it because they already made those decisions. When you voted for them to represent you, this is what you told them. You said, you know what? I'm going to vote for you to make decisions for me on this grand scale, on this scale here. You know, certain decisions, not every decision, right? They can't decide when you eat and what you eat and when you take a crap, but they can decide, you know, how much tax comes out of your paycheck, because now they have to determine whether or not they're going to make you pay for the energy cost of this new factory, because the factory owner doesn't want to pay for it. No, they want you to pay for it. So what? They're going to vote on whether or not to pass those energy costs onto you instead of making the factory owner pay for it. This is what happened in South Carolina, by the way. In South Carolina, they're now making the people of South Carolina pay for these new factories' energy costs, because the factories don't want to pay for all of it. They want to pay for some of it. See how that works? I didn't make that decision. Anyway, I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Thank y'all for coming through. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for listening. And thank you for, you know, those of you who are subscribed and understand that freedom is important. I hope I was able to articulate why freedom is important and what freedom can do for you. What it's not going to do for you is make you more comfortable. What it's not going to do for you is make you more safe, right? That's up to you, right? Freedom just gives you the opportunity to look out for yourself a lot more, right? So anyway, thank you guys. Much love. Like, share, subscribe, and we're going to